Hello class, today I want to take a look at some extra practice with converting between equivalent fractions, decimals, and percentages. So in question 1, we're given a few percentages. We want to convert each one into its equivalent decimal and fraction. The easiest part about this conversion is that we know what the meaning of this percent sign is, and it just means over or out of 100. So we can always just replace that percent sign with the writing over 100. What else do we have aside from that percent sign? Well, we just have the number 75. So we can start by saying that 75% is equal to the fraction 75 out of 100. And we do always want to simplify our fractions. So I'm going to look at those values. And at minimum, I know that they divide by 5. So I could do a division by 5 to start simplifying them. I, however, also happen to know that both of these numbers can divide by 25. And when I divide by 25 on the top and bottom, that gives me the value 3 on top and the value 4 on the bottom. So 3/4 is my 75% as a fraction. Now from my original fraction here, my 75 out of 100, I know that this decimal is going to reach the hundredths place, since there was 100 on the bottom. And hundredths place is 2 spots after the dot. Let's fill in our digits from the top of a 5 and a 7, and of course we fill in a 0 into any empty places. And so by going to the hundredths place, we've got our decimal 0.75. For the value 6%, again, we're going to start by recognizing that percent means out of 100. And the value on top is just a 6. Again, I can simplify this fraction. I know that both of these are even numbers. They both divide by 2. That gives me the simplified fraction 3 over 50. For my decimal, again, I have 100 on the bottom, so my decimal will reach the hundredth place, or 2 spots after the dot. My top just has a 6 in it, and as usual, any empty places gets filled in with a 0. So again, we get our decimal 0.06. For question C, I have the decimal 77.7 repeating percent. So I can go ahead and start by converting that percent sign into its meaning, which is out of 100. And I'm going to keep my number on top, 77.7 repeating. Now I do know that a fraction over 100 is really just dividing by 100. And when I divide a number by 100, it moves the dot twice to the left. So this is going to be the equivalent decimal 0.777 repeating. And since everything there is repeating, we can really just call that 0.7 repeating. That's going to be my decimal form of this percent. Now I'm going to use my repeating decimal rule to tell me what my fraction is going to be. I know I'm going to have 9s on the bottom for this repeating decimal, and since there's one repeating digit, I'm going to have 1 9 on the bottom. What is my repeating digit? It's a 7, and that goes on top. So my simplified fraction is the fraction 7 over 9. In question 2, we are converting each decimal into its equivalent fraction and percent. So let's start by getting them into fractions. We know here that we have a hundredths place as our furthest digit. Hundredths. Sorry. And so our fraction is going to be over 100 with the digits 0, 4, 5, or just 45 on top. Let's go ahead and recognize that our 45 over 100 is having 100 on the bottom. I can replace over 100 with the symbol percent, since percent means over 100. I'm going to keep my number as 45. For my fraction itself, I do want to simplify that down. So both of these numbers end in a 5 or a 0, which means they divide by 5. 45 divided by 5 is 9, and 100 divided by 5 is 20. So my simplified fraction is 9 over 20. Likewise, in question B, my 5 is in the hundredths place. So I know that this is going to be my digits over 100. Again, both of these end in a 5 or 0, so we'll divide them by 5 to simplify. 15 divided by 5 is 3, and 100 divided by 5 is 20. So this will be the fraction 3 over 20. For my percent, I'm going to recognize that my fraction here was over 100, and so I'm going to replace that over 100 with the percent symbol. And of course, my number was 15. So I know my 15 over 100 is 15%. In question C, this is not a terminating decimal, so we want to look at our nines rule. Since we have one digit repeating, this would be 1 9 on the bottom. And so I know this fraction will start out life as the digit that repeats, which is 6 over a single 9. I do want to, of course, simplify this, so both these numbers can divide by 3, and that gives me the simplified fraction 2/3. For my percent, it's not easy to make that 9 on the bottom into 100, so instead I'm going to start with my decimal. So I'm going to start with the fact that 0.6 repeating is 0.666, so on and so forth. And I want to recognize that that is really itself over 1. To make it into having 100 on the bottom, I'm going to have to multiply by 100, which moves my dot 2 times to the right. So this is 66.6 and so on over 100, which is 66.6 repeating percent. Of course, I'm getting that percent sign by replacing the over 100. For my last one here, I do have 3 digits repeating. And so I'm going to have 3 9s on the bottom, or 999. On the top, my 0, 5, 4 are my digits. So this is just going to be 54 on top. Now, of course, I want to simplify my fraction. Both of these numbers are multiples of 9, so I'm going to divide out that 9. 54 divided by 9 is 6. And 999 divided by 9 is going to be 111. I think we can simplify that more, actually. 6 divides by 3, and 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 3, which also divides by 3. So we should be able to divide that by 3 again to further simplify. 6 divided by 3 is 2. And 111 divided by 3 might be a tricky one to do in your head, but we can do it on our papers. 3 goes into 1 0 times. 3 goes into 11 3 times, which would make 9. 3 goes into 21 7 times. So this would be 2 over 37 in simplest form. Always good to check that you have simplified fully there using your divisibility rules. Okay, to get my percent, I'm going to again write out a few digits of this repeating decimal. So this is 0.054054, so on and so forth. Again, I'm going to use my trick that this is itself over 1. And to get a percent, I need to multiply that bottom by 100 to get, well, 100 on the bottom. Doing that's going to move my dot twice, and that'll give me 5.40540 dot dot dot. And this is going to be my 5.40540%. Of course, replacing my out of 100 with my percent. Now the tricky part of this question is where does the repeat go? So we want our digits 0, 5, 4 to be repeating. So actually we can get rid of that final 0. Just say the 0, 5, 4 is repeating there for our percent. On the back, we are starting with a fraction, and we want to convert it into equivalent decimals and percentages. So in question A, I've got 7 over 50. My first option for converting a fraction to a decimal is to get the bottom to be 10, 100, or 1,000. In this case, if I multiply the bottom by 2, I get 100 on the bottom, and 7 times 2 is 14 on top. Now that I have my 14 over 100, I can replace my over 100 with the percent symbol. So this will be 14%. And I can also say that my decimal will reach the hundredths place since I have 100 on the bottom, and I'll fill in the digits from the top. And my decimal is 0.14. In the case of 3 over 5, likewise, I'm going to start by trying to get 10, 100, or 1,000 on the bottom. In this case, I can get 10 on the bottom by multiplying my fraction top and bottom by 2. Give me the equivalent fraction 6 over 10. Which I know is going to reach the tenths place as a decimal, or the first spot after the dot, and my digit there is a 6. So 0.6 is my decimal. For my percent, I'm going to take my 6 over 10, and I'm going to multiply it top and bottom by 10. Reason for that is I'm trying to make my 100 on the bottom for my percent. Now that I have my out of 100, I can say that that is the percent symbol. My number from the top is my 60. So this would be my 60%. Question C. Easiest way that I can see to get 10, 100, or 1,000 on the bottom is to multiply by 2. And that'll give me 168 over 1,000. Since this is over 1,000, I know my decimal will reach the thousandths place, or 3 spots after the dot. And my digits are going to fill in there, 8, 6, and 1. And of course a 0 in the empty place. For my percent, I want to get 100 on the bottom, or I can use my decimal. I'm going to choose to get 100 on the bottom. And to get that 100 on the bottom, I'm going to need to divide my fraction top and bottom by 10. Remember, when you divide your number by 10, it just moves the dot once to the left. So this will be my 16.8 out of 100. Now that it's out of 100, I can replace that out of 100 with the percent symbol and keep my number 16.8. You could also take your decimal and multiply it by 100, which moves it twice to the left, and that'll give you your same percent, 16.8. Sorry, twice to the right, obviously. In question D, I can't make the bottom into 10, 100, or 1,000, so I'll try option 2, which is to make the bottom into 9, 900, 99, or 99. In this case, we already have a 9 on the bottom, so I know this is a repeating decimal. My repeating decimal will have one repeating digit, and that digit is a 1 itself from the top of this fraction. So my decimal is just the decimal 0.1 repeating. Now to get my percent, I'm going to write that out a bit. So 0.1 repeating is 0.1111, which is itself out of 1. We're going to go ahead and multiply by 100 to convert this into a percent. So this will be 11.1 repeating out of 100. Obviously moving that dot twice. And we'll replace that out of 100 with the percent symbol. And we'll say this is 11.1 repeating percent. Final one here is a little bit trickier. I can't make that 22 into 10, 100, or 1,000. And as it is, I don't see an easy way to make it into 999 or 999. So when that is the case, before you go about, long dividing your fraction, it is helpful to wonder if you can simplify your fraction. In this case, both of these even numbers can divide by 2, which is going to give me 8 over 11. Why does that help me? Well, 11 is a number that I do know how to make into 99 by multiplying it by 9. If I multiply the bottom by 9, I'll the top by 9 as well. That gives me 72 out of 99. 72 out of 99 is going to be a repeating decimal with 2 repeating digits. And those repeating digits are my 7 and my 2 from the top of my fraction. For my percent, I'm going to write that out as 0.727272, so on and so forth. That is itself over 1. So I'm going to go ahead and multiply that top and bottom by 100 to get a fraction over 100. That'll be 72.72 repeating over 100, which again, my over 100 is my percent. And my number is 72.72, to repeating for my percent. So I hope that's helped you with this extra practice on the different conversions between fractions, decimals, and percentages.